Welcome, guys, to Dear Friends and Dead Ends, episode 2. We are Ginger Voldemort and Mega Bitch here to bring you a new episode.
You are recording, right?
I am, yeah.
I was unaware. All right. Good thing I didn't say anything incriminating.
I would have cut it out. I wouldn't have left it in, I think.
I appreciate that.
In fact, you are more than welcome to edit this one if you would like to. You'll have complete control.
Oh, it's just going to be, I'm just going to clip like anything offensive you say and it'll just be that on repeat.
Which reminds me, while we're getting set up, I'm going to go over just a few things. I do owe you a bitch apology, which is what I'm going to call it. Apparently, even my husband knew that cats do not chew their food.
I didn't think I was crazy. I didn't feel like that was something I would make up, but also I say a lot of things and some of them aren't true.
I for sure thought they did. And then after we had that conversation, I was just sitting there creepily watching my cats eat, as they like scarf it down.
Right. And you're like, oh, these little motherfuckers don't chew.
I know. And I was looking at it, I was like, oh my God, they're not chewing. Why aren't they chewing? And Dana was just like, yeah, no, they don't. They only have fangs. They don't have, things to really chew that kind of food.
They don't have cat molars.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. But I do want to commend us on a good first week. We've had up till right now 21 downloads in our first week. That's just on like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and maybe like a couple other things. But that's really, really cool. Our YouTube in 2 days, we have 8 subscribers, 17 views. I'm super proud of us for that. It's mostly friends and family, but still, that's pretty cool.
How many views do we have?
17.
9 of those are me.
Are you like for serious?
No, I haven't even. I subscribed, but I didn't actually watch it.
Thank God. I almost got really mad because I was like, are you kidding me? I thought that was genuine.
Yeah, just pumping those numbers.
Right. And then I do actually have on Podbean, it actually tells me the regions. So I don't know if your brother or even my family in Tennessee, we had a couple downloads. Maryland, of course, had most of it. Also Virginia and the UK. So thank you to everyone from all of those regions. There's also one that said unknown, but Alaska was lit up on the map. And I was like, maybe Alaska?
Oh, just some poor Eskimo out there, and this is the only thing they have to listen to.
Oh boy. What if it's like a 50-year-old man just sitting in his house or sitting in his like trailer at a truck stop? And he's just like listening to us and he's like, what is this bullshit?
I actively hope that's the case.
That would be amazing. Let me see. I think I just have 1 or 2 more things just based on last week. I know I mentioned at the end of the podcast, I put a little thing at the end, and I mentioned the song that we use as our opener. That artist, Spooky Black, is actually from Baltimore, which I thought was really cool. That was really special to us, considering we are from Maryland. So that's just my last little tidbit before we get into it. And then just as a summary for everyone, we are now on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're also on, I think we're about to be on Stitcher. I'm still waiting on iHeartRadio, but so far there's quite a few in Podbean as well. So those are the places you can find us.
Yeah, so smash that like button.
Yes, please.
Hit that download. Just absolutely destroy those comment sections.
We would greatly appreciate it. We are also going to be opening a Patreon for anyone that would like to donate. That would be really cool. We're going to have the $5, $10, and $20 tiers. We're not demanding that anyone, just hand over your money. But if you do like our podcast, we would really appreciate it. A lot of time apparently goes into editing, which I found out last week. It took me a long time to cut out all the ums and like all the pauses and everything like that. So it's a lot that's involved.
If I have to edit this, I'm going to accentuate all those things. I'm taking it in a new direction.
Jesus, like, do you have to ruin everything in my life?
I mean, I don't have to, no.
You just get the enjoyment out of it.
Yes.
Oh, God damn it. I'm trying to see. Oh, is there a chat? Oh, can I add? Oh, this is perfect. All right, let me pull this up because I'm sending you the pictures that I have for the tiers for our Patreon because I want in real time for them to hear your reactions. Let me see. For some reason, it won't let me see it, but I'm.
I thought you were sending me the outline of the different. I thought you were sending me an outline of the different tiers, and I opened it up, and it's just a beautiful picture of my cat.
No, it's because Cupcake, I figure, could be our stop laughing, are the Podcats, the $5 tier. I thought we could put her there, a picture of her. The next one is fucking amazing. This next one is the $10 tier. It is Bald is Beautiful, and it's fucking amazing. I already sent it to Kim.
Not excited for this one. No, I am excited for that one. Never mind.
How amazing is that?
Oh, that's a lot. Thank God I grew my beard back out. Just the mustache, the real look. It literally just looks like I have 4 eyebrows.
You look like a pedophile.
It's not a good look. It was one of those things that as soon as I shaved my face, I was like, oh, okay, can't wait for my beard to grow back.
The last one that I'm sending you, though, is for the $20 tiers, and we look like babies. This is like an old picture of us at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
How young do we look?
I had hair. Oh, God. I've aged. Oh, God, I've aged. I'm just staring into my own mortality now.
Oh, I've given you so much shit for being bald and like the same height as me or whatever, like, just shorter for a man. So
yes, that is a polite way to put it.
So I thought, like, you pull off being bald really well. You do. Not every guy can pull it off. You do pull it off quite well.
Oh no, it's one of those things that as soon as I shaved my head, I was like, oh shit, I look better bald. My hair was real bad.
No, but you pulled off so well, and that's what I wanted to dedicate the second tier to you because of all the shit I've given you that is unnecessary and uncalled for, and like, you know what I mean? So either way,
you couldn't pick a picture where I look like a badass. You had to pick a picture where I'm like fucking that creepy mustache and I'm like blowing a kiss or some shit.
You did that toddlers and tiaras pose and sent it.
I did,
so that's if you would like to send a different one, I can do a different one, but you just look like you're embracing it, honestly.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the one I'm sticking because that's the funniest. But
so I'd recommend going to our Patreon page. It's going to be Dear Friends Dead Ends, and I would take a look at it just so you can see the pictures that we're talking about. But Cupcake is adorable. Cody is pretty much Cody, and then the baby picture of us when we're like early 20s. Okay. All right, sir. Would you like to go first today?
I today am covering the technically unsolved case of Phylicia Simone Barnes. She was born January 12th, 1994, and actually lived in Monroe, North Carolina. She was apparently a fantastic student and was on track to graduate early, and she was actually going to go to Towson University up above Baltimore. So the end of December 2010, she came to visit family in Baltimore. So she was staying with her half sister Dina.
That's why I remember this case.
She was staying with her half sister Dina and I guess Dina's boyfriend at the time, Michael Johnson. So like I said, it's in 2010. Days after Christmas, the 28th, she goes missing from a Reisterstown shopping center. So she was walking from the apartments over to the shopping center. As soon as they realized that she was missing, there's no cell phone usage, there's no card payments, there's no social media updates. I guess she was like pretty avidly updating her Facebook. And on the 28th, as soon as people realized she was missing, there was no updates whatsoever. So
Yeah, that's like in the age of technology, it's cool that we have that to track cell phone pings and also just like, social media activity. It can give us so many clues that we didn't have before. So it's not all bad. There is some good thing,
oh
that
yeah,
has come from all
it
of
can
that.
be like a huge indicator of, someone's mental health and, all
Oh,
these other
yeah.
things. And then, like you said, if someone's always on Facebook and all of a sudden they drop off of Facebook, then you can kind of you're going to pick up on that quicker than if you only see them on the weekends, that sort of thing.
Or you're like, oh my God, good for you. You finally got off of Facebook.
Yeah, no, that's how I would react. But
Right. That's just
so
us.
so they start searching for her. They weren't getting any information from neighbors and stuff like that at first. They were looking around for her. No one had really seen her. They weren't even sure if she made it to the shopping center. And then on January 22nd of 2011, a little less than a month after she went missing, she was actually featured on an episode of America's Most Wanted, because at the time, during commercials, America's Most Wanted would run their own commercials, but rather than like looking for criminals, it was highlighting missing people at that point in time. So searches, like I said, didn't turn anything up. They couldn't find a thing, and it kind of fell by the wayside. For whatever reason, it doesn't specify, but in March, the following March, so about 3 months after she went missing, everyone kind of got their second wind and really stepped it up a notch as far as trying to find her. So they ended up offering a $36,000 reward for any information that would lead to her return. And then it was, I don't understand this, and I couldn't find any information, but it said that her classmates had a carnival to raise funds in her honor. I don't understand, like, honoring what? What do you, what do you do with those funds? Like, do you just give it to the school? Do you give it to the family? What?
I mean, I would think they would give it to the family and, to help with search efforts if they have to try and, hire like a PI, or like sometimes some of those search and rescue teams, I don't think they're always pro bono. I think sometimes they may be like hired, you know what
Yeah,
I
I mean,
mean?
but like most often they're volunteers, but I couldn't find any information on where the carnival funds went.
Because you can't like
Uh,
donate that to like a police force for like manpower, right? Like you can't, that's not a thing.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no,
I don't
because
know.
it's all like government and federal, state based, I guess, for the
And,
funding.
yeah, and then so the following month, April 9th, 2011, 100 members of law enforcement and volunteers did a 100-man search of Patapsco Valley State Park. I mean, it's Baltimore, so unfortunately they did find a body, but it had no
Ugh.
relation to the case.
Oh God, it's one of those weird things where you're like, yeah, I'm from like, right around Baltimore. And, and people are like, Baltimore? I don't want to go to Baltimore. Why would
Yeah, I
you
mean,
say
a lot of Baltimore is beautiful and has really cool experiences. And
yes,
then there's parts of Baltimore that you super sketchy and you don't want to even drive through.
for sure. I mean, there's just certain areas that are the violent areas, and it's mostly just there because you got Federal Hill, Fed Hill, you have Fells Point, you've got like the Inner Harbor area, all those areas. A lot of college students stay there. A lot of people. There's like bars.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, just it's kind of stay where it's more touristy. I've told
Mhm.
you that story before where me and my younger sister went to the music festival up there, and it was like you bought a ticket and you got to see all these cool,
No, I
like,
don't remember
uh,
that.
oh really? So yeah, so me and my younger sister went to they called it like a punk block party, and you bought a ticket, and it got you entrance to like 4 or 5 different music venues, so you could go in, and it was all like heavy metal and punk and like all the stuff that I was listening to at the time. And we were walking into the one place, and a guy walked up to us, and we were eating pizza, and the guy opened the conversation with, "Don't worry, I'm not going to switch you." And
Baltimore.
And I was kind of like, I don't know if that's slang for something or if he means like a switchblade. So I told my sister to go into the concert with our friends, and he was just like asking for food and stuff. I still have no idea what he meant, but I went over and bought him some pizza.
That's very much you.
And then I fast walked away from there.
Oh, for sure.
Like he kept his hands in his pockets the whole time until I handed him pizza, but he opened the conversation with, "I'm not going to switch you." And we were
immediately you're concerned. You're like, I wasn't worried about that until you said that.
Yeah, you didn't have to tell me you weren't going to. I just assumed you weren't. I didn't think there was the threat of it.
Yeah, so for anyone confused, I know a lot of people probably remember the riots that happened. It's been years and years. I don't remember. It's like 2014, 2013, something stupid. It's been that long since the riots in Baltimore, but it's a place that has a really high murder rate. For anyone that doesn't know, it almost all the time. Okay, perfect. Because like the news channels all the time, you're just hearing about a murder that has happened, and they just glaze right over it. Yeah. You're so used to it. Anyway, go ahead.
So the following month, April 20th, 2011, at 7:30 a.m., workers find a body in the Susquehanna River near a dam. Later that day, they find a second body.
Jesus.
The following day, after an autopsy had been performed, it was confirmed that it was Phylicia's body. They were able to match it up with dental records, and I guess she had like some sort of small tattoo.
So how long was this after she went missing?
So this was just under 4 months. So she went missing the end of December. Mm-hmm. And then April 21st, she was pulled out of the Susquehanna River. Again, the second body didn't have anything to do with the case.
Baltimore.
It's just Baltimore. But like I said, certain parts of Baltimore. I love going to Baltimore.
Correct.
Police were suspicious because she was 45 miles from where she went missing, and it didn't seem as though it was something where the river took her.
Yeah, it wasn't like downriver or anything. Yeah,
she was tangled up in something. It didn't seem as though she had been like moving. Days after that, so that's what it was, because they were able to identify it, but on May 4th after the autopsy. So they were able to identify it on the 21st through the dental records and a tattoo, but on May 4th after they did the autopsy, that's when it was ruled as a homicide. And they didn't release details about what had happened because they wanted to keep the integrity of the investigation. So they didn't want to give out details and have someone say, "Oh, I know a guy that loves stabbing people."
It's Sir Jimmy stabs a lot. I bet he did it.
Yeah, he's a problem.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Oh God, we worked with someone at Toys R Us, and I'm not going to say their name because I barely remember it, but he looked exactly like the BTK killer. I swear to Jesus. Tell me you remember this.
Yeah, of course I remember it. I saw him when we then worked together at Sam's Club. I saw him a couple times and was like, "Please don't look in my direction."
I swear to God, he made a joke one time. Like, I don't know if it was like a killing joke or like a serial killer joke, and I was like, "Don't."
Yeah, he tried to get me into his pyramid scheme, and I was like,
right.
I was like, I don't want to go to a free lunch, even if it's a free lunch. No, this is clearly a pyramid scheme. No, it is. The following month, April 27th, was the first time that it was made public that she was asphyxiated.
Ooh.
That's when the trial began. That was the first time it was made public that she had been asphyxiated. It turns out the main suspect was her half-sister's boyfriend,
God damn it, of course.
Michael Johnson. So this is an unsolved case, okay?
Yes. Yes, you're right. You're right. You're right.
Having said that, when the police come to question you at all, and your first instinct is to take off running, that's never the best sign.
Right.
I don't like cops. I don't like interacting with them, but
Right.
it's a problem if you start running. And
Right. They're not
it
initially
does,
there to necessarily treat you any type of way. I can't speak for any certain race of, or anyone's, individual experience, but at the end of the day, they're just there to do a job typically. And for the most part, they're just there to ask the questions they need to ask so they can rule you out.
immediately sprinting away from the police.
Like while they're right there.
Yeah, just
Like he
walk
didn't
up
go
like,
on the run and like vanish. He
oh,
just
no,
literally like
They were
ran.
like, hey, sir, we need to speak to you. And he was like, no, thanks, and took off running. And that does not ever convey an idea of innocence. It doesn't make you look great, whether you
Even
did it
if
or not.
there's right, like even if there's something else you're guilty of, how would they know that? How would they know that? Like just, you know what I mean? Like
I mean,
it's not helpful.
I have done nothing wrong. I
Mhm.
always get nervous talking to cops.
Oh, for sure. Like if I get pulled over, like I got pulled over once and I got a warning. I was crying in the car. I could not stop. And he was really nice about it. But it was just one of those things where my first instinct was to cry, not to get out of it, but just because I was just like so nervous.
He ran and he was immediately arrested for trying to evade the police and, I guess, interfering with an investigation. And over the course of time before the actual trial started, he was questioned 8 different times. So once the trial started, it was alleged that he had killed Phylicia in their apartment and then carried her to the car in a 35-gallon tub that he was using to move out after him and Dina had broken up.
Who has
So
a 35-gallon tub?
I don't know. That's probably like what my Christmas tree's in,
Hold on. Okay, continue. I need to
right?
look up.
Google it.
Yes, I'm done.
All right. What's it look like?
Can I Google it? Hold up.
Type faster.
So a tub and not a drum. So we're talking about like a Rubbermaid container.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
Okay. I was
I don't
thinking
know if
like a
Rubbermaid wants their brand attached to.
You're right. You're right. My bad. A plastic tub used for organization. One of those brands.
Yeah.
Or like it looks almost some of them look like trash cans. See, I was thinking of like a drum almost because I couldn't think of anything else. But I'm with you now.
Wait, I said that he was moving stuff out of his ex-girlfriend's apartment and you immediately went to like chemical container?
No. Yes.
I know. Yeah, it was alleged that he killed her at the apartment, put her in this tub, drug her out to the place. They they said specifically that he was sweating and struggling with this tub. So
I'd imagine.
again, like I've helped people move. It sucks. Like you're tired and worn out by the end of the day. They didn't have to do this guy like that. But nothing points to him seeming innocent. It came to light that apparently he had made everyone very uncomfortable during Phylicia visit while Phylicia was staying with him and Dina. And he traded approximately 500 phone calls and texts with Phylicia and thought of her as a quote unquote little sister.
Like this is before she comes to visit, the 500.
Yeah. So it didn't say a time frame, but it made it seem like it was pretty quickly because it made everyone uncomfortable, like how much they were talking.
Is how long do we know how long he had been dating her half sister?
See anything that stated how long they were together? No. In May of 2012, they added Phylicia's homicide.
Moving around. Okay.
Oh, you're fine.
There we go. All right, no, we're good. We're good.
Okay. Yeah. No, I agree. They added Phylicia's homicide to the 2010 counter for the Baltimore homicides,
Okay.
which bumped it from 196 to 197 in 2010.
Okay.
That was the first year since the 1970s where Baltimore recorded less than 200 homicides. So 197 homicides in Baltimore, and they were like, guys, we really killed it. Well, that was a poor choice of words.
What?
We really nailed it this year.
No. I hope they said that and they were like, no pun intended, let's stay professional.
We killed it. And then he just snaps off his sunglasses and looks into the camera. That's just an episode of CSI.
Oh. You made that up.
No, I mean, I did,
Oh, yeah, you CSI Miami, is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah, David
Okay.
Caruso, he's the best.
Gotcha.
So during the trial in 2013, Dina testified that Michael had actually given Phylicia alcohol and made sexual advances towards her. Again, everything's pointing to this guy being a creep.
Like not helping the Me Too movement, or you're not needing one at all.
Just actively being not a good person.
Yep.
So the neighbor testified again that he saw him all sweaty trying to drag that tub to the car. And a quote-unquote petty criminal claimed to have helped Johnson dispose of the body.
Expose?
Dispose of the body.
Dispose?
Dispose of the body. Yes. God. So
is that what you put in your notes?
That's neither here nor there. So a petty criminal helped her dispose of the body. Helped him dispose of the body.
After me.
God damn it. Yeah, no, I did. Well, because I don't. Okay, I was in the zone.
Please continue. I'm gonna
just
keep
the
laughing.
Wrong zone. So I would assume that because it was written as petty criminal, it was probably like one of the Baltimore crack users.
You're right. There's only like 2 of those.
Yes. No, it was almost probably definitely a crackhead just saying like, oh yeah, I helped that guy. We got rid of that body. Not a problem.
Because some of them are very unashamed about what they've accepted themselves, and they're just very open about it, and they'll be like, yeah, I did that.
Oh yeah, but also like just walking through Baltimore, like you have people that just actively want to be involved with things also, for seemingly no reason. Again, parts of Baltimore. I love Baltimore.
Yes.
So this was in 2013. It was litigation and legal happenstance and all that garbage. And then actually on January 20th of 2015, the judge threw out the case.
Wow.
Just said there wasn't enough evidence. There was no physical evidence, and their main witness was a quote unquote petty criminal. And they put a lot of emphasis on that guy's story, which apparently didn't come off as terribly, what's the word I'm looking for? Reliable.
I'm sure there were some extra details that they were like, what?
Yeah. Sure, that's unneeded to know what you did to get your drugs. So unfortunately, the murder of Phylicia was never solved. In 2012, it actually did push state officials to make Phylicia's law. It's a law that requires the state to publish a list of missing children and statistics, as well as people who people can go to for help if they have an investigation.
That was not already a thing?
Yeah, no, that kind of blew me out too. I was like, oh, that was only made in 2012. And I didn't write it down, but the other really sad thing was it was apparently tons and tons of states already had these laws. Always name it after a child that kind of provoked it.
Right.
And this was the first child who was a minority that made them make a law. All the other kids were just little white kids that went missing and
Stop
people
it.
lost their minds.
You're telling me that was the
But
first?
that was the first one named after a child who was also a minority.
I do want to say it is also Black History Month. So he and I
Oh,
are,
fuck.
yeah, so you and I are both white, and we can't speak from a place of experience, but my best friend is Black, my goddaughter is Black. It's not just a month. Like there's
Why
constant
did you point
historical
out that it
things.
was Black History Month after I just told this horrible story?
I pointed it out because even though it took so long for her to be the first, she was the first. So it's a historic moment, technically. It may
Yeah, I
be a
feel like a
smaller
real
one.
dick now.
No, I think I would rather you do these
I do.
cases and
I
we
didn't. Oh man,
yeah,
that's
but
not why I did that.
no, would you rather us not even acknowledge that it's Black History Month? That makes us even more ignorant. I just feel like we
I
should
don't want to be ignorant. I just. Oh, I feel
see, I
bad.
didn't think of it until you said that and you reminded me that that's the month that we're in, and I just feel like we should acknowledge it. It's something that it's not just a month, and it's the shortest month. It's one of those things where there's always points in Black history that are happening, and just to give it 1 month, just to only talk about it for 1 month, I think is bullshit. But I did want to bring it up to know where we stand. You and I support Black Lives Matter. We support unity and equality, and the fact that it's
Fuck yeah.
taken this long is fucking ridiculous. We support all the rights of the LGBTQ community. I know there's other letters, I apologize, but it's like we're supportive of everyone. We think love is love. We think that life is life. We don't believe in, we also believe in we're pro-choice as well. So that's where we stand, if anyone's wondering. At least I think you are pro-choice, right?
Yeah. No,
Okay,
do
yeah.
what you do.
Yeah, like it's not our right to tell anyone who to marry, who to be with, anything like that. We see people as people no matter what. So I just feel like I had to point that out. But
yeah, no, it's all very important. I support all of that. I can't help feeling like a good dick after
no,
reading that
you
story
shouldn't
and
feel
then
like a
being
dick.
like,
I think it's good that you happen to talk about her story during Black History Month. It could have been, months from now that you could have happened upon it and decided to do it. But I think it's good that it was this month, so we were able to, bring all of that up.
yes, good.
All right, just try and like embrace it, Cody.
What a segue.
Shut the fuck up. Wait, are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Oh, okay. My missing persons case for this week is Laureen Ann Rahn. She disappeared in 1980. I wasn't trying to stick in the 80s, but that's what I ended up doing. She was born April 3rd of
Wait,
1966. Yes,
Lauren Ann Rahn?
Ann is her middle name, I think. Ron.
Oh, I misheard you. I thought you said Lauren and Ron, and I was like, what is their last name?
Oh, no.
All right, got it.
Okay, she was from Manchester, New Hampshire. At the time of her disappearance, she was actually only 14 years old. She was 5'4". She was 90 pounds. So she was quite skinny. She was very, very small. Basically, the night that she went missing, her mom was out of town, and I'm going to get into those details in a minute. Her mom was out with her boyfriend on they were at a tournament, but she had brought two friends over and they're never named. Initially, I thought one male and one female friend. At the time that I'm taking these notes, I'm assuming they are both minors, and I'll get into why I'm bringing that up a little bit later. She was in her apartment. Her mom was not there, so she had two friends that were over that night, and that is the night of April 26th into the morning of April 27th. Of 1980. Basically, normally she would go wherever her mom would go when she'd go off with her boyfriend to these tournaments. Laureen would go with her mom, Judith. But this one night she said, I want to stay home. I'm 14. I just want to stay home, kind of chill, hang out with, my best friend, the female friend. And the mom let her stay. What happened was she was in the third floor apartment. They don't say the apartment's name, but it was on Merrimack Street in Manchester. She had brown hair, blue eyes. She also had a prominent scar on her upper leg. She had fallen onto some broken glass at one point in her life, and she had gotten that scar. And I just want to point out these details just in case you have anyone that lives in that area, anyone that would have been around there at the time. Ask them, see if they remember anything. You never know what could be important.
You could actually check your family's legs for scars.
You could. That's actually not a bad idea. Just in case something happens to them and they vanish, it would be good to help identify them and any resulting,
Anyone who is important to you, you need to know what their inner thigh looks like.
Oh, Cody, do you realize how that sounds?
It doesn't come off great.
Yeah. So, oh God, now you have me thinking about Deani. So your former, oh God, the way I just said that, she's going to fucking revel in it. God damn it. So your former coworker and my current coworker, her name is Deani, but I'm bringing this up because I invited her to check out our podcast. And of course, she looked at the podcast icon, which has, the knives for the plus sign, and then there's the hands that is like a ghost or like vanishing. Immediately, her first reaction is, oh, it looks like someone is having sex in the shower.
Yep, knew that's where that was going.
Yes, and I hadn't even thought about it because that's just what I found to use that was free. And so I put it up there because it's like someone's vanishing. And then Christy's like, oh, yeah, it does look like that. It's like, seriously. And then they talk about the music, our opener song, saying it sounds like sex music. And I was like, could you not? Like,
it's a morbid podcast for horny people.
Okay, all right, do what you want with your life. Jesus Christ, God damn it, I just got off track. But she was home.
Yep.
Yes, she was home that night with two friends of hers. And she was on spring break from her school. She went to Parkside Junior High School in Manchester. She was known for being really good at school. She was always getting good grades. She wasn't a slacker. She most likely passed her Spanish class. Just going to point that out. And
wait, what?
What?
She likely passed her Spanish class?
Oh, for sure. She would have passed Spanish if she took Spanish.
Is that a dig at me because I didn't?
I didn't have to say it because you did. We found you. They found you other ways to graduate.
Yeah. I had to do computer courses. I didn't understand Spanish.
That's fair. That's very fair. But yeah, I did write that in for you, actually, because I'm an asshole. Okay, so.
I was like, did I miss something?
Oh, no, that was intentional, 100%.
Right, fair enough.
Okay, so she wanted to be more independent. She's at home. So one of the friends brought beer and wine for them to drink at the apartment. Once again, she's 14. I don't know how old the other two are, but most likely they shouldn't be drinking. At least she should not be drinking at that age. And I don't want to judge anybody, but I came from a strict home, so that was not a thing in my household. They're in the apartment, and then the male friend that is there, he hears voices coming from the hallway because the apartments weren't indoors. I don't think. I think they were outward facing apartments. I think you had to access it from the outside, and there was outdoor stairwells and everything. This wasn't like an enclosed apartment building. When he hears the voices, he's like, oh shit. And he thinks that it's Laureen's mom coming home, and they're just coming home early. He immediately flees. He runs out the back door, and he hears Laureen lock it behind him. Remember that. That's the last thing he knows about it. And then we go immediately to midnight, April 27th. So it's now just turned April 27th in 1980. And this is when Laureen's mother arrives back home from the tournament with her boyfriend. What I want to point out is really fucking weird. On all 3 floors of the apartment building, the outdoor stairwells, there was no light. Normally it was well lit. All the light bulbs had been unscrewed and it was completely dark.
They'd been unscrewed?
Yes. They had not been removed. They weren't just simply turned off. They had all been unscrewed. They were still there, but the investigators could tell they were just unscrewed. If they screwed them back in, they were fine. And that was all of them.
That is weird as shit.
That's really fucking weird. I've never heard that before in a case. It had been a long day probably, and the mom is going up the stairwell, and she's probably, a little bit, concerned, like the first one or two, or maybe she could even see it when she pulled up, but she was just probably like, okay, that's weird. God, it's so weird that that's what happened, and it wasn't just some other malfunction. And she was probably like, what the fuck? And then I put what the fuck, WATT, because that's the kind of person that I am. Yeah,
Solid.
I am so fucking proud of that. Like, you don't even know. Okay, I told that to Dana. He told me to get out of the house. So that's how that went. Okay, so she gets to the apartment door. It is unlocked, which was unusual. Normally her daughter would have locked it, but they went in quite easily to the apartment. And of course, she kind of does a general check, nothing crazy. She looks to see if her daughter's sleeping in her bed. And there indeed is someone that's sleeping in the bed. But as it turns out, it is just her female friend that did stay over that night. And immediately we go into the next morning. I don't really have a time, or at least not so far in the notes. But they wake up, or they get alerted that something is wrong. And they notice, the person in the bed is not Laureen, but her friend. And then that's when they see that she isn't sleeping on the couch like she was when the friend went to bed. Her clothes are there, though. There's clothing on the couch. Her sneakers are there. So I don't know if she was wearing some type of pajamas, anything like that. It really doesn't say. They don't really specify. And the back door is now cracked. It's not shut. It's not locked. It's open, but it's just kind of cracked open. So, and yeah, the friend says when she last saw her, she was falling asleep on the couch, and she let her have her bed. She was very nice about that. And the initial police response is she's a runaway. She'll come back in a few days. If she wants to come back, she'll come back in a few days. They weren't concerned at all. Judith was not having that answer. She knew her daughter better than that. She said, this is not her. This is not what she would have done. Laureen's purse was still in the apartment as well. And like I said, I'm not sure what she was wearing, because they say that she was wearing a certain outfit, but I don't know if the clothing that is on the couch were pajamas or something she had worn earlier in the day, because they said that she went missing wearing a white V-neck sweater, a blue plaid blouse, jeans, and brown shoes. She had a gold ring that was missing and a blue silver necklace that she was wearing. So I don't know if she changed to possibly meet someone outside while her friend was sleeping, something of that nature.
That makes way more sense. I was like, why would she change clothes just to run away?
Right. There's just little details that are very strange. The light bulb thing is extremely weird. The fact that they don't really explain the clothing that's on the couch, if they're pajamas or just something she had worn before. It took a few weeks, like maybe 3 weeks, and the police eventually reconsidered their runaway theory. They're like, maybe she didn't run away. Maybe something happened. So they start to look into it. All that precious wasted time. I mean, it's what, like the first 48 hours, as they say per the show. That's when you will get the most of your leads and have the most success in finding someone, not 3 weeks later. They didn't have that kind of technology back then. They couldn't just like look at her cell phone records.
That's so fucked.
It makes me so fucking mad. Oh my God, it just keeps getting weirder. We're now in October of 1980. It's October 1st. Her mom is looking at her phone records. And when she's looking at these records, she sees charges on her phone bill. And there's calls that had come in from California. They didn't know anyone from California. They didn't know, like there was no reason for her to be in California, but maybe that's where Laureen had ended up. So she looked into it. And it's important to point out they had no caller ID really back then. There wasn't really a digital record of missed calls. So if they called and you weren't there, you probably wouldn't know about it unless someone said something to you, which is another thing that I think we take for granted, is having all of that knowledge.
Oh, for sure.
It's insane. Just the things like even, granted this is 40 years back now, but still it's just like a whole different experience. There were 3 calls that were placed to the apartment phone. They all came from California. all placed the same day on October 1st. So I guess she must have noted on the phone bill. The next month, no one happened to be in the apartment. No one picked up the call. And as it turns out, 2 of the calls had come from motels in Santa Monica and Santa Ana. I looked it up. They were about 45, almost 46 miles apart. They were 48 minutes in light traffic. Granted, in California, I wish you the best of luck with that. The third call was to or from a teen sexual assault assistance line.
Oh.
Yes. And apparently I did read something that she might have used, or someone might have used, her mom's credit card information for the call. And that's maybe how they got the records as well. It's a little murky, but that was the third call.
Wait, what? That's a service they charge for?
Which I also thought was weird, because typically those should be free if it's like counseling.
Yeah, that's insane.
So I don't know what that's about. But they ended up interviewing the person. It's actually a doctor who, he's like a surgeon of all things, who runs the center, which is very weird. They ended up talking to him, and he didn't remember knowing anything about the call. I don't know how they kept record of such a thing, because typically I thought it was kind of like anonymous, unless you really, really needed someone to come get you or something
Right.
like that, or to alert the authorities. He didn't know anything about the call, which seems normal. You probably wouldn't know about every call that comes in. And then it looks like 5 years later, so we're now in 1985, he changes his story.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a lot of time. And so some details normally do change. That's pretty normal. Either way, he says that there were numerous runaway girls that would occasionally visit his wife and himself at their home. He's very vague about his memory, but there is one girl that maybe came from New Hampshire. And then he then mentions a woman named Annie Sprinkle. This is an individual that he happens to know and helps runaway girls. And she worked with his wife in the fashion industry, but that was not the only industry that Annie was involved in. She also was involved in pornography. Cody, don't look it up right now. Basically, the police had to then review all of the films that she had helped in or been in to make sure that Laureen wasn't in them.
The police had to review those.
Well, I mean, you have to rule out that that's not her. Like, it wouldn't be evidence, like if she's in the videos, even in like
All
background.
right, Officer Johnson, you're
Really, Johnson. You chose
I
Johnson.
mean, yeah, of course. I'm not going to choose Officer Ben Dover.
But either way, I think we found the perfect job for you.
Just watch porn and tell the police about it?
Could you imagine if that was a job?
There's worse gigs out there.
That just went to the top of your list, didn't it?
I'm going to start putting together my resume.
So they couldn't find any evidence. Annie was never implicated in her disappearance or found to be connected in the case in any way. But either way, somehow she had been thrown into all of this. And then there ended up being in 1986, a private investigator went to California on Judith's behalf. Once again, this is Laureen's mother, to kind of see what they could dig up. They located both motels, checked it out, and Jesus fucking Christ, one of the motels may have been used for child pornography by someone named Dr. Z, was the name of the producer that did that. Absolutely ridiculous and unnecessary.
And the other guy's a surgeon?
Yeah. What if?
Yeah, no serious red flags there.
God, I just
Oh no, this is. Oh, God.
What?
So the surgeon who is quote unquote helping these runaway girls that come to his house with no other records.
Yes.
Friend is involved in porn, and oh Jesus.
I'm thinking there's just not enough. Obviously, there's no cell phones, there's no like text or anything. So there's no way for them to fully say that either of them are connected, that they're necessarily involved, but it's not looking good. It's not looking like things are adding up to innocence. It looks a little bit murky.
A little bit, yeah.
If that is him and he chose doctor as his producer name, he's an idiot. He's like straight idiot. Like, why would you do that? I'm not saying that it is, but those are the details of the case when it comes to the motels. And there's no connection between the hotline and Dr. Z. They couldn't find anything but it's just not satisfying enough to the case. And then there are more details, like about a friend of hers that had mentioned getting a weird phone call from someone that had named themselves as Laureen. His mother had taken the call, transferred it to him, but not much else is said about that. In 1981, someone happened to see someone that looked like Laureen in Boston, Massachusetts, which isn't crazy far from New Hampshire. They were at a bus terminal and it was determined that it was not Laureen. They ended up finding out, I guess, who it was. Within that first year, Judith received so many mysterious calls. No one ever spoke from the other end of the phone. So this could also be whoever did it. They could have been calling because some assholes do that and they like to taunt people.
That's horrifying. I have to be honest, I thought you were going to say she got so many mysterious phone calls that she changed her number.
She did eventually.
Okay, yeah, I would have.
But the calls all typically came in around 3:45 a.m. One thing I thought about is California time. It would have been about 12:45-ish a.m., which, as it turns out, is actually about the time that they called the police to let them know that something was up. So it turns out it wasn't like 6 a.m. the next morning. It was basically closer to 1 a.m. is when they noticed something was up and that their daughter was not there. So yeah, like 12:45 a.m. California time would be 3:45 a.m.
Right.
New Hampshire time because it's East Coast. But I'm not saying that it means anything, but the fact that it always came around that time was just a little bit weird. But the calls came, though less frequently after that first year. Typically, it would be on like holidays like Christmas, continued for a couple years. And this is the first time they mentioned that she has a sister. Sometimes she would take the calls and the person on the other end would immediately hang up, which was very, very weird. But Judith did eventually change her number. And it's so hard to be like, change your number, because what if Laureen is out there and finally is able to get to a phone? Obviously, she's going to call 911, but what if she tries to get a hold of her mother and she's actually okay? You know what I mean? Or she's at a police station and she wants to call her mother. Difficult thing.
That's tough.
It is.
I'm changing my number like immediately, but
It's
call
yeah.
information. Call 411.
In all fairness, I don't think it could have been her, because I feel like she would have said something. I feel like at some point during all those calls, if it really was her, she would have said an "I love you," or best case, probably most likely, she would have said "I'm sorry"
Or help.
or "help." But judging by the number of calls, yeah, she would have said something. There's no way she would have just said nothing. Yeah,
That's just creepy as shit.
There's something about in 1988, there was someone that looked like Laureen that was reported in Alaska. They found it was actually a prostitute, and it was not her by any means. So they ruled that out. Then looping back around, when I talked about that male friend that was there that night when she disappeared, according to Laureen's aunt, who had an interview with tabloids years and years later, I don't know if I think it was in like 2009 or something like that, she brought up the case, hopefully to bring new attention to it, but she said that that person was actually 21, which does explain the alcohol, because they would have been of age to purchase it. They explained that that person, that male friend, actually completed suicide in 1985. And I mean, because the female friend was still there. So unless he left and then came back and she went out to see him and then something happened, which seems kind of weird because he was already there, the friend already saw him, you would think that he would have just come in.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make a lot of sense. But they did point out that he did complete suicide in 1985. They've never found any clues that he was involved, anything like that, but he was a little bit older, and he probably did buy the booze for that night. But that's just a weird detail that for some reason they left out his identity, I guess, in respect. Judith eventually moved to Florida. She did change her name. And the only other last weird thing I have about this disappearance is that about 6 weeks after Laureen vanished, a girl named Denise Denault disappeared. Where did Denise live? Anybody?
The same place?
2 blocks away.
Oh.
Very, very close. So when it comes to murder victims, theoretically, typically they're not from blocks away from each other that I know of. It's very possible that there was a serial killer or someone who hunted both of these 2 women. It's really hard to know for sure. The age difference is a little bit, there's like 11 years between them. Denise was 25, Laureen was 14. No official link has been made with the cases, but it is very strange. They did look similar. They both had dark hair. They had similar features. So it's just another thing that just adds to the whole mystery. And it's really, really strange. Neither of them have been found. They are both still missing. I do want to say that if you do know anything, if your family members know anything about that case, please call the Manchester Police Department. It is 603-668-8711. And let them know anything that might be helpful. That way they can at least jot it down and someone can look into it. They did interview Tony Fowler of Manchester Police Department. He is now retired, but he did look into the case at one point. He believes that she did leave to meet someone that night, and he thinks that she may have planned it or planned to return shortly and did not intend to completely run away. But that is the case of Laureen Ann Rahn. Unfortunately, we still have not found her, so we're not sure what happened.
That's a lot. I thought last week's episode strange and surreal, but that one's way worse.
Yeah, I like to pick the weird ones because they have those details that you're like, how is this possibly connected to this? How could this all possibly be going on in the same missing persons case? It's just really weird. I hope that we find her, even if it's just her remains. I don't know if her mother is still alive. I think she is, but I think her mother deserves to know what happened and deserves to have some closure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a really hard thing to talk about missing persons cases, but
Ugh,
all right.
that surgeon sounds like a fucking creep.
Yeah, I really would love to know more about it, but they don't say his name. They don't say anything else about it. I also wonder if they're keeping that close to the vest. You know what I mean? If there's no solid connection and they can't talk about it, but maybe they have some like suspicions. I'm very, very curious about. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I mean, you're a co-host though, so it's not really like.
I'm a special guest until my run on this show is TBD. We'll see. Maybe I don't make the cut. Maybe I get replaced.
Oh, God, please. Thank you so much for listening, guys, to Dear Friends and Dead Ends. And we hope you guys return and keep listening, keep supporting us. Once again, just as a reminder, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, and we are working on others as well. We do have a Patreon that I'm setting up. It's going to be Dear Friends Dead Ends. We'll also post a link on our Instagram, which is Dear Friends Dead Ends as well. You have links to everything on there, so you can find our podcast. We're going to be posting every Tuesday. And
remember, guys, check your friends and loved ones' inner thighs.
Yes. Hashtag check that thigh.
Hashtag check that thigh, yes.
Jesus Christ. Oh, God, I don't want to think about it. Okay, but we will see you guys next Tuesday on Dear Friends and Dead Ends.
Bye.
Bye.